I'm sorry this video is so dark. I'm using a book light to light it right now because instead of filming at 3 p.m. like I normally do, I wanted to make this video, but it is like 10 p.m. so we're doing with what we can. I'd like to start this video with a story. So my sophomore year of high school, I was invited to go on a field trip to a regional theater by me that was doing a production of a show called Camelot, and I was invited the night before, so I didn't really have time to look into the show or know what it was going to be about. Obviously it's the story of Camelot, but I didn't really grow up reading the books on King Arthur, and I didn't really grow up watching movies about the story of King Arthur, so I wasn't sure how the full thing was going to play out. I just knew that it was, you know, King Arthur. That production of Camelot, which actually was at the same theater Be More Chill premiered at, was one of the best productions I had ever seen of anything in my entire life. It was so good, and going in, not knowing the music and not knowing what was going to happen, and knowing very little about it, made it a million times better, in my opinion. Nowadays, we clearly have more access to soundtracks and to bootlegs and to things that make it easier to see and experience theater without actually going to see it live. Because of this, when we know we're going to go see our friend in their production at their high school, or we know we're going to go see a show when it comes around on tour, we tend to listen to it and obsess over it, and we love it so much, and we know the show so well that by the time we go in to see it, we know what's going to happen. We know what songs are going to come when. We know the plot, probably, because if you're like me, you read the Wikipedia plot, so you have a basic idea of pretty deep details into what's happening. But I have come to realize that the shows I enjoy the most are the shows I know absolutely nothing about. Like I said, Camelot. I had no idea what I was getting into. I knew it was going to be King Arthur, but I didn't know the songs. I didn't know Julie Andrews was in the original production. I didn't know who wrote it. I didn't know it was a Lerner and Loewe musical. So I knew very few things on it, and that made my experience so much better. Like I said, this has happened to me countless times. This happened to me last week. I watched Jesus Christ Superstar 2 days after it premiered on NBC. I knew nothing about it, except that obviously it's about Jesus, and that it was written by Andrew Lloyd Webber, and that it's a rock musical from the 70s. That's all I knew. And I wasn't a big fan of NBC's other live productions, so I didn't know what I was going to think of this one. And I absolutely adored it. It's what I've been listening to. I thought John Legend was amazing, and I thought Sarah Bareilles was great, but that's not what we're here to talk about today. We're here to talk about the fact that I now love Jesus Christ Superstar and want to go see a performance of it being put on by a club on campus because I loved it so much from not knowing anything about it and watching the live production of it. I've never come out of a show wishing I went in knowing it. And I think that's something that's really crazy and something that I don't think people realize they'll experience until they actually experience it, until they actually go into a show knowing nothing about the plot or knowing a very basic plot. And they go in knowing none of the songs. They go in just blind completely. I think a lot of people who don't necessarily see shows often, professional, non-professional, whatever, who just listen to the soundtracks or who are new to musical theater so they haven't seen a lot of shows, I don't know if they realize it's better to go in my opinion, not knowing anything because they haven't had the opportunity to. So I really recommend going in not knowing a single thing. Another example, when I saw Once on This Island for the first time, my local high school, and when I saw A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum a year after that, and when I saw my cousin's high school do Les Mis, I knew nothing about any of those shows. Les Mis, we tried looking up the plot, but we ended up looking up the book plot, so what happened in there wasn't even necessarily what happened in the show. And all three of those musicals hold such a special place in my heart. Not only because I saw them in my younger years and they were something that stuck with me, but because I wasn't expecting things to happen the way they did. I wasn't expecting the music to sound like it did. I was able to just go in and enjoy it without having to worry about, oh, well, when are they going to sing this song? Or is this person singing this song going to be good? Or, oh, I really can't wait for this plot point. When is it going to happen? I just went in thinking, okay, I'm here to see a show. This is the name of it. Let's go for it. I just think this isn't necessarily something people do often or as often as they should. And I just really wanted to bring this up and address this because it's something that has made shows so much better for me and has helped shows to have more of an impact on me. And I want people to realize that their experience can be so much better if they just don't listen to the soundtrack, they don't know anything about the show, and they're just going in to see it. If your high school is doing a production of a show you've never heard of and you have friends in it and you're going to support them, I'm challenging you. Don't look at that show before you go in. Wait until you go see the show and just experience it live. A movie. Most people don't want movies spoiled for them. So when you're going to see a play, why is that any different? Why would you want it spoiled for you? Why would you want to know what's coming? And sure, you might be able to say, oh, so I know if I like the soundtrack, or oh, this or that. But if you're able to just snag tickets to a show and it's a show you don't know, just try taking a step back and just thinking to yourself, I want to see the show as it comes to me. Another example, my sisters were in a production of the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee again at my high school before I was enrolled there. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't have any idea of what was coming for me, and I love that show now. The soundtrack is awesome and the plot is so great, but I didn't know anything about it. And I think having no knowledge of it going in helped to just enhance my experience because I wasn't worrying about what was to come. I was just experiencing it as it came at me. And I think that, like I said, is something harder to do in today's world, but I really just recommend you do it. I've repeated myself 3 times in this video, but it's just a point I want to emphasize, and I don't really know how else to describe it, because in my opinion and in my experiences, it's just so much better knowing nothing about the show and going in. Or even if you're like, I can't know nothing, then you look it up and you look up a very minimal plot that you can find, because it's just so much better to go into a show and just experience it. And I think that's part of what makes the theater so magical, is the ability to just experience something. And I think by listening to a show and reading the plot before you go, you're taking away that ability to have a true experience. You're still going to experience it, and obviously if it's a big show you've wanted to see for a while, you're going to have an amazing time. However, I just think that if you want to have a true, genuine experience, you gotta just know nothing and just go in. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Let the show talk to you and let the show come at you, because you won't expect it and you won't know what's coming. And again, this might just be a me thing. I love plot twists. I love not knowing what's happening next. And I love when I'm seeing something or experiencing something, and I'm seeing a story or experiencing a story, I love to be carried by that story. And I love that story to tell me what's happening rather than me already know and try to guide the story. Does that make sense? I like to be guided by the story rather than me trying to guide the story. And I think I've denied this for a while, and I've been like, no, I still like this show even though I knew a lot about it, but just looking back on all the shows I've seen and all the shows I've gone in not knowing anything to, I've enjoyed them so much more than I have the shows I already knew everything about. Especially when you listen to a soundtrack of an original Broadway recording that came out in the 90s or in the 80s, and you're going to see that same production but locally. It's then going to throw you off because you're not going to be hearing the people you heard on the cast recording. You're going to be hearing whoever is in that local production. And I think sometimes that can even halt my experience and be like, wait, I know obviously that actor from the recording wasn't going to be in this, but that's what I was expecting just because I was so used to listening to this show done that way. And so I just think if you go in not knowing anything and you go in ready to experience the show and get invested into it and experience something new and experience something you aren't expecting, you're going to have a much better time than you saying, well, I'm seeing this show next week. I want to listen to the soundtrack and I'm going to look at the plot and I'm going to know the plot so well and I'm going to know what characters I like going in. Next time you go to see a show, whatever it might be, wherever it might be, whether you're going to, like I said, support a friend, whether you're going to your high school's production, whether you're going to your middle school's production, whether you're going to a tour or Broadway, whatever it might be, take a second, say, I don't know this show, I'm not familiar with it, and that's okay. And I'm going to wait until I see the show to actually experience it. This is a shorter video than my other ones. I just really wanted to say this. I think it's something that people don't necessarily realize is better for a theater experience, but can easily make it better. Obviously, it doesn't go for everyone. It's a personal thing. If you hate surprises and you hate experiencing new things and you love knowing all the spoilers for movies and all the details you can before you watch something, then obviously this probably isn't the best tip for you. But if you're someone who likes experiencing plays and you like experiencing movies, and the best movies and your favorite movies are ones you were recommended by a friend, or your friend said, hey, we're watching this movie, I don't know if you've heard of it, and you haven't, then I think you should really just try taking a step back and experiencing the theater. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, and if you like me talking about theater and whatever and all that kind of stuff, subscribe. And if you have done this, if you haven't done this, if you're like, I'll never do this, or if you're like, I'll try this, let me know in the comments down below, because I'm so curious and how you guys like experiencing your theater. This is my go-to way now. I don't really listen to new soundtracks anymore. I kind of see the show and then I listen to the soundtrack. I don't really listen to the soundtrack and look at the plot and then go see the show. So let me know how you guys like to see your theater. And yeah, again, this was just a quick video I wanted to make. So yeah, it was just a topic I wanted to talk about. I hope you guys have a wonderful time doing whatever you're doing, and I will see you next time, whenever that is, whatever video I make. Bye. I wish you guys could see the bougie ass, sad, just set up I have happening right now. I'm filming, oh gosh. I'm filming this video at 9:30 or like 10 p.m., which I'm learning quickly not to do. Because then you have to provide your own source of light. And this is the only thing I could find because I couldn't find a flashlight. And I just wish you guys could see the cheap setup I have going for me. I bought a tripod for $10. I bought this microphone for $10, which is why I'm always trying to wear black shirts so it blends in better. My computer is running out of drive space for me to edit videos. And my phone also is running out of space, so I can only really have one video on it at a time, max 2, and then it slows everything else down. This filming situation is a hot mess.